Right, in this video, we're going to talk about appetite regulation in the digestive system. And if you didn't see it, I have a previous video in the endocrine section covering the basics of appetite regulation, mostly focusing on leptin. So as a quick review, remember, leptin is a hormone that's secreted by adipose tissue, fat tissue. And if you lose leptin, like in this mouse, this is a genetic knockout mouse that doesn't have any leptin. That mouse has no control over its appetite. It eats and eats and eats and gets very obese. The same exact thing happens in human children that are born with defective leptin genes. They can't regulate appetite and they're always hungry. As soon as you add leptin back in through an injection, the appetite goes back to normal, decreases. The mouse or the human will lose a lot of weight and be back to a healthy place. Now, what I want you to think about is, what is leptin really regulating? Okay, so with leptin, the question is, what is our body fat adipose mass, right? How much adipose tissue is there? If there's too much, leptin should be released, and we should inhibit appetite. So it's an appetite suppressant. These other hormones, insulin and CCK, we've already seen these in the previous digestive videos. Insulin, remember, is a sign that you're hyperglycemic, that you have elevated blood glucose. And that is another good reason for your appetite to go down. So insulin suppresses appetite because having high blood sugar or glucose is a sign that you're still digesting a previous meal. If your blood glucose is still up, you haven't finished digestion yet. It tells your brain it's not time to eat yet. We need to finish digesting the previous meal first. Right, so also makes sense. Right, CCK is, remember, released when you have a full small intestine. Right, so if your small intestine is full of food, again, a sign that there is physical substance inside the GI tract. You're still digesting that previous meal. Another good reason not to eat. And so we've got these three separate things that take your appetite down. Blood sugar being up, that's insulin. The stomach and the small intestine being full of food, that's CCK. And having a little bit too much adipose tissue. Now, I'll split these apart and say these two, insulin and CCK, they are what I call short-term regulators, right? They're regulating whether you're hungry for the next meal or not 3, 4, 5 hours later. Whereas leptin, this is a long-term regulator, meaning it's controlling how much food you eat over the course of days and weeks and months. Okay, so they combine to determine a person's overall appetite and how much they feel like eating. All right, so those are appetite suppressants. On the appetite stimulator side, neuropeptide Y is a peptide that's released in the brain that is a very potent stimulator of appetite. This is what's actually happening in the brain and the hypothalamus to make a person feel hungry. And interestingly, these appetite suppressors like leptin, all they really do is inhibit neuropeptide Y. Right? That's how they have their effect of turning appetite down. Now, interestingly, if you have a mouse or a human that has a neuropeptide Y defect, the exact opposite of this will happen. Instead of being overweight, the mouse will be severely underweight and won't feel like eating because it doesn't even really have the sensation of increased appetite at all. And it can be starving and looking at a full bowl of food and have no interest in eating it because that sort of stimulation of the brain doesn't even happen. Okay. All right, last one. Ghrelin is a hormone that's released by the stomach and the hypothalamus, but mostly stomach tissue. And since ghrelin is an appetite stimulant that increases appetite, ghrelin levels go down right after you eat a meal. So as your stomach fills and starts to stretch, you decrease ghrelin secretion, less appetite stimulant, and that's why gastric bypass surgery works, at least initially the way it does, is because the tiny little stomach gets filled so easily after the surgery that it's easier to suppress ghrelin levels, right, and not have them rise. Okay. All right, so I hope this was a good overview. Again, this video will make a lot more sense if you look at the previous video in the endocrine section about the review of appetite regulation, and this just pulls more hormones into the mix. So follow along, subscribe to the channel. Watch the videos in sequence, and it should all make sense when you string them together.